The first crane can be seen over downtown Disney. The Tram Path project keeps getting mysterious. Personnel shortages have some off to a bad year as Disney gets ready to celebrate the Lunar New Year. Could East Coast shortages find their way out west? A complete guide to all the attractions that are opening and closing to annual refurbishments? Toontown getting ready to close its gates for over a year? And standby line times soar as Genie Plus rips into town. It's all your tasty mental treats for everything new that's happened this week at the Disneyland Resort. Greetings, friends. We have a lot of news to get to this week. I've divided the video up into 10 different chapters, so feel free to skip around at the news stories that affect you and your next Disneyland trip the most. Greetings, fellow citizens of Disneyland. Bricky here on the edge of the broken dreams, the trail of tears, the tram path that just won't reopen. This is your weekly update of everything new that's happening at the Disneyland Resort. I think a top priority for a lot of Disneyland fans this year is getting the tram path back open. Many of us are sick of walking that trail. Let's zoom in and see what it is that they're doing. It appears that they have cut out these cart-shaped spots along the tram path's route. The only thing that I can come up with for why there would be two sets of these where the tram path drops off and picks folks back up is a long-term investment on the tram fleet itself. As you can see here overhead, we have two different sets of these cutouts in the concrete that seem to be about tram cart shape. Could there be some way that they're going to an electric tram fleet in the future and these would be quick magnetic charging stations? I really can't think of any other reason why to be putting these in these two areas, specifically where the tram comes and goes. Currently, the tram runs off of natural gas, and the fueling station is along the tram path, and sometimes tram carts will have to pull over and refuel during a busy day. So eco-friendly is already an idea of the tram carts. Maybe in the future, a new fleet will come in and they'll go electric. If so, that'd be amazing. Definitely a project we're going to keep tracking here on Update. Curious why they decided now would be the time to do this construction project when the tram path hasn't been used for over 2 years now. The first crane has reared its head in downtown Disney as we're going to see a lot of construction take place in 2022, and I'm assuming probably will also roll over into 2023. And this is a good thing. This means that the commitment to spending money at the Disney parks is still a priority for the Walt Disney Corporation. And even though the pandemic has been a bump in the road, it's showing that it's not been a dead end for the parks. So right out of the gate, here are some very important dates for you if you're visiting downtown Disney inside of the next month. The monorail is scheduled to close on February 14th. However, it is going to reopen on March 6th, but I think that might be a little ambitious. I'll explain that in a minute. Earl of Sandwich will close on January 24th, and Sugar Boo & Co. will close January 16th. Currently, the Starbucks is already closed. Friends, I'm standing on the very edge of the construction zone that's going to be breaking out any moment now. Let's right now look at this entire block, all the buildings, the back area. Let's look at all of it. Document this entire space that soon will be going away as we see downtown Disney push back in this direction and no longer just be a straight path. So what we're going to be documenting, and I mean documenting heavily today, is this entire block that you see up on the screen right now. From the Starbucks there at the edge of the monorail track, all the way over to the edge of the Disneyland Hotel. And we're going to go into great detail because these are going to be our before shots so that we can track this project and show you before and after. There's probably some buildings here that you're not even aware that exist because this area never really was used in the way I think that Disney was envisioning it. And then, of course, security concerns post 9/11 really have changed the way the downtown Disney operates. Lots of fences and barriers set in. The footprint of downtown Disney really changed and got molded into lots of different images than what it was originally designed. So let's go deep. And remember, today's video is divided up into several different chapters. So if this isn't your thing, skip over to the next part. But for those of you that are really into the Disneyland history and want to document all of the park and its always evolving SimCity nature, let's dive in. So Are you familiar with these spaces that are on the far end of downtown Disney? These face over to the Disneyland Hotel. You see there's an old travel agency there. The abandoned one used to be a car rental company, but this little area is just completely dead Disneyland. In fact, whenever I film over here, I always have to talk to the security officers because they are not cool with cameras in this zone. So therefore, we're going to keep our shots tight and not show any of the security barricades that start right there to the left. These two spaces are just not being used for the guests whatsoever. Here you can see this was the Walt Disney Travel Co., where you could go in and book trips or whatnot. Really not a need for that in the internet age. And this was a car rental establishment that you can go into. That noise maybe you just heard under my vocal, that's them using this as a balloon station. If you peer into the door, you can see they're just filling up helium balloons in here to sell around. Now we see the actual back of the AMC movie theater. So it goes behind Earl of Sandwich, goes behind these dead retail spaces. It's now fenced in a way where you can no longer walk around the back of the movie theater the way that it was intended to when the world, we'll say, was a lot different and changed the first major time in our lives after the last 2 years being the second big shift. But this is going to be a massive building to remove. So now we found ourselves in the back parking lot. And this is where I'm curious. How far back are they going to take downtown Disney? If we look at the size of the movie theater, it's both vertically tall and wide in its depth. But there's this parking lot back here. So are they only going to take downtown Disney to the edge of this theater, or are they going to get ambitious and start moving into this parking lot where we can see the Grand Californian on the other side of Disneyland Way? They could efficiently take downtown Disney and make now the soon-to-be Pixar Pier Hotel more of this environment, as well as more arteries that could flow into the Disneyland Hotel. Whereas if we peer through the brush, there's our first crane that has showed up this year. This project is going to be the DVC Tower. That's going to be the fourth tower erected and added over to the Disneyland Hotel. Right now we can just see they're in that stage of just moving a lot of dirt, getting the land all excavated and ready for the big construction. But the crane showing up is always a big deal because that means we're getting ready to go vertical over at the Disneyland Hotel. And this is just one project that's going to be happening down in this far end. So if you're going to book a hotel room and you want some relaxation, the Disneyland Hotel is not going to be your friend this season. Moving back around to the front, now we have the AMC Theater that has been closed for a long time. This went down when they were going to put in the hotel plans that were failed. But looking at this building, it's going to take a while to bring this down. As you can see in the back, behind this beautiful steel atrium is where the actual theater space is. It's going to be a minute just to get back to zero here, right? Just to level it off to the earth. But I really wanted to come out here this week and heavily document these buildings because this is going into Yesterland. This is all going away, and it's going to be so interesting to have this footage to do A/B shots of before and after. I wanted to zoom into and show you some of the avant-garde type details that were put into this building. This building very much matches, I would say, Buena Vista Street or Hollywood Studios over at DCA. It's definitely part of that renovation of the history of the Disneyland Resort. Now they're going to be going more mid-century modern, which is something that I'm very excited about, but we'll see where exactly that design detail goes. Here you can see how the IMAX screen sticks up above the Sugar Boo location. Sugar Boo is a business that I think will be an obscurity in Disneyland history in a couple of years. It doesn't seem like it ever really resonated with the guest. It's always quite empty when I go past there. So whereas Earl of Sandwich really fit that affordable place to eat in downtown Disney, and me personally, I spent more money at this Starbucks than anywhere else in this block, I think that Sugar Boo will kind of just disappear and be one of those, huh? What was that? But when we look into the old Starbucks, I get sad because I spent a many a nights and a many a buck in here. And as you can see, one of the main reasons why the monorail is going away is just how close it is to this construction zone. Feet away. from the monorail passing by. That's why it's going to have to go down, why all of this gets demoed and removed out. So I'm going to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We'll call it 7.5, 8 feet is how close the monorail track is to the edge of Starbucks. And it looks like it gets closer to the old AMC theater. That's why the monorail is going down on February 14th. Disney is saying that it's supposed to reopen on March 6th. This is a massive, massive project that could have lots of delays if engineers get wrong how to take down this building efficiently, or if we get any weather that halts construction. There's a chance the monorail might be down longer than what they're anticipating, which is why I wanted to take some victory laps on it on last night's live stream. Love that logo embossed into the concrete there. But here are some final shots of the AMC movie theater and this moment in history for downtown Disney. Going to be so interesting to see what comes about with this big shift, and going to be interesting to see how quickly they can do this. I do hope that the monorail comes back up when they're saying it will, but seems pretty ambitious to me to get all of that wrapped up in 3 weeks. So I think how this affects many of us: ride the monorail if you're there in the next month and make sure you take advantage of it. And keep in mind, if you're booking any time at the Disneyland Hotel, it's going to be construction city and you're going to have to deal with that noise. Whatever neighborhood that you live in, I'm sure you've seen some staffing issues and some stores closing where you live. And the same is true for the neighborhood of downtown Disney and the Disneyland Resort. The Jamba Juice that sits in downtown Disney has just been sitting with its doors closed. Not enough staff to open, not even enough staff to put a note on the door to tell people when they are going to reopen. Same for the Starbucks back in the construction site. Moving over to the Grand Californian, the holiday treat station will not be reopening until around Valentine's Day, and during the holidays we saw the hours really fluctuate depending on when they had staffing to operate this cute little kiosk inside the lobby of the Grand Californian. And now moving over to Napa Rose, the very cute and precious Princess Breakfast will be closed for 6 weeks due to staffing issues. And there's plenty of people to book that well ahead of time that are being notified that it's not going to happen. So we're seeing staffing issues really affect the food industry in downtown Disney and also around the hotels. Interesting times, my friends. Interesting time. This little spot on the corner of the old ESPN zone has transformed into the holiday mural area. There was Halloween. Here we see the Christmas version. And now it is transformed over into a celebration of the Year of the Tiger as the Disneyland Resort gets ready to celebrate the Year of the Tiger with the return of the Lunar New Year at Disney's California Adventure Park, which will kick off January 21st and run to February 13th. This mural is really interesting because you can see how they've taken the Disney brand but try to treat it in a Lunar New Year style. If you look at the characters, you can see how their faces have been readjusted, the way that the eyes are done in a more Asian illustration style. You'll also notice that this illustration has like a paper grain or texture that was laid over it. Here we see Tigger as it is the Year of the Tiger. Also, one of the things that they're excited about is that Raya from The Last Dragon will be making her first appearance at the Disneyland Resort. And also, there will be a new float for Mulan's Lunar New Year procession, which features Asian drummers plus red and gold lanterns that glow and an after sunset performance. So it seems like they're really going to go out this year and try to turn Lunar New Year into a bigger event than we've seen in years past. And it's always just nice to have these little festivals that pop up, which normally end up being a moment for some photo ops and some unusual treats that we don't see at the resort for the rest of the year. Always enjoy the aesthetic of this event and how they take the Disney brand and transform it into the signature look of the Lunar New Year. As you can see over my shoulder, Disney is getting ready for the Lunar New Year celebration, and I find it awesome that a park that was originally just themed about California, the state that this park is in, is now transforming into the part of Disneyland Resort where you can go and see all kinds of cultural diversity celebrated for celebrations for all kinds of people. It's interesting. Disneyland has It's a Small World in its back section of the park. DCA has this area that bends itself to different celebrations for different types of people. It's pretty awesome how it all evolved to be this way. The evolution of this back end of DCA is really a fascinating one, how this became the cultural hotspot. Right now there is all kinds of artwork and different interactions for the new film Encanto. Nailed it. Perfect pronunciation, always with me. But it's just fun to see this area come to life. And man, this meet and greet, super popular. And this cast member doing an amazing job giving all these kids a real interaction with their hero from the latest film. And this line was pretty dense, and it stayed this way for the most of the afternoon. So always fun to see how this area has transformed into something that it wasn't planned to be, but probably something that it should have always been. Love the way that these lanterns look. I can't wait to come back here and just see these lit up all across the back wall. There's some really magical stuff that happens back here, and part of the legacy of Disneyland is it's always been a place where all people come together and celebrate together, and this just embodies that. So if you're planning on coming out and you want to get a reservation, Disneyland celebrates the Year of the Tiger with the return of the Lunar New Year at DCA starting January 21st and running to February 13th. Book those reservations, make your plans now. Let's look at some Disney Parks Star Wars news, one that takes place at Disneyland and one that's been taking place at Walt Disney World. A little bonus bounty has popped up for Magic Key holders outside of the Star Wars trading post. From 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., you can come up to this little table on the edge of the Star Wars trading post. And if you're a Magic Key holder, you can get this 4-pack of Boba Fett postcards celebrating the new show over on Disney Plus, which I was really enjoying until this last week's episode. The cyberpunks were a little cringy for me, but other than that, it's been pretty cool. And this is a freebie for Magic Key holders to come by and grab. Out at Walt Disney World Hollywood Studios, Batuu East, there was a supply shortage. As we know, lots of stores are having a hard time bringing us all the products we've come used to over the years, but they were having a hard time supplying customers at Savi's with the sheaths that go over the pretty expensive lightsabers. And at first, they were just giving everyone their sabers in a plastic bag. However, guests complained and pushed back, and then they were able to get, what's that, Watto? You don't need to pay for this sheath, right? We'll give you a plastic bag. No, Watto, that's not how it works. You're ripping people off and you know it, Watto. No, it's a fair trade. But as guests pushed back, and rightfully so, pointed out that the sheath is part of the pretty pricey experience, $219 to custom build a lightsaber, people decided that they should get some sort of a discount. So 10% was taken off the price, taking the total down $22. But that's not all, because then the Droid Depot ran out of the Droid carrying cases, which, once again, the carrying case is an easy and efficient way to get your droid around and about on your trip. They were giving those to folks in a plastic bag, so a discount was negotiated again. I say this because we haven't had any supply issues out here on the West Coast, but if it does pop up, there is proof that you are entitled to a discount if you don't get the proper vessel to take your product home with you. So, just a little heads up from our neighbors out in Batuu East. Hey friends, I always read all of the comments in my videos, and I want you to know that I use those comments as a way to keep trying to make better and better content for each and every one of you. After last week's reaction on my review of the gluten-free cookie, I thought I would put a little food into the weekly update, but don't worry, you're not going to have to watch me eat it. Salt and Straw has introduced 5 new vegan flavored ice creams as their limited edition flavors. So if you're vegan and you're looking for some ice cream, let me tell you, Salt and Straw is absolutely the best ice cream you'll ever have, and I'm an ice cream connoisseur. Over at the Cozy Cones, a new churro popped up, the chocolate peanut butter cheesecake churro. I'm going to have to say that this one for 6 and some change was not really my favorite treat. There's not enough peanut butter on it to keep those just basic chocolate chips tethered to it. I found that I was taking a lot of my energy trying to get all of the items into every bite. And I think if you advertise something as this plus that, you should be able to get this plus that in every bite. So it was a little hard to put together, kind of underwhelming, not very imaginative. Could probably use more peanut butter to tether in the chocolate chips. And where was the cheesecake? Never got any of the cheesecake. But here's an item that I absolutely loved. I've always enjoyed the food at Docking Bay 7. It feels more like regular restaurant food than amusement park food. And this new dish is great. It's called the Do Back Chili Noodles. It's spice, noodles, and gingered ground pork with Brussels sprout leaves and shredded red cabbage. It's $15.49. It is a very hearty portion. It's good food. There's a little bit of spice to those noodles. The ground meat is really perfectly seasoned. There's just enough Brussels sprouts in there to give you the flavor, but not to make you run to a toilet. I highly recommend this if you're looking for something hearty to eat when you're in Galaxy's Edge. Don't worry, I'm not going to start showing myself eating on camera. I'm not into that vibe, but I'll tell you this, that dish is awesome. I've always loved that Docking Bay 7 has real food, not theme park food, and that dish is going to be a go-to dinner rip for me. So good, loved it. I always say nothing says the future like a sans serif font. Look at that beautiful Tomorrowland sign. But before I get into making fun of Tomorrowland, which is one of my favorite things to do, let's give a shout out to Star Tours, which turns 35 this week. It's an amazing piece of Disneyland history where this brought in the Star Wars property into the Disneyland parks. It brought in video boards. It brought in a different way of using a small footprint inside of the park to take people on very, very big adventures. There are so many attractions such as Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run that just simply would not exist without Star Tours. All right, it's that time for your refurbishments list. Little Mermaid should be open by today. It was closed for 4 days this week. It should be back open and ready to go for the rest of the year. And if you're wondering what did they do to improve it, Ariel got, what are they called? Yeah, feet. So you heard it here first. New improved Ariel's Under the Sea Water Adventures now with feet. Tell all your friends about it. We now have Ariel back in DCA, but let's look at all of the attractions that currently are closed at this moment. If you know where this used to live in Disneyland, comment below. Splash Mountain went down on Monday the 10th, and we don't have a reopening date for it, but don't worry, it's just its annual refurbishment, not the big, long, probably multi-year or year and some change refurbishment to turn it into the Princess and the Frog attraction. Taking Splash Mountain and shutting it down really takes a lot of the traffic out of Critter Country, but does increase the line and wait time for Winnie the Pooh. This attraction is a pretty monumental part of Disneyland history. It'll be so interesting to see what it's like once it gets rethemed. But man, there is not many things in this park that are as much fun as doing that big drop on a hot summer day. So Splash Mountain, not splashing right now, but we'll let you know as soon as it comes back online. This Monday, the Haunted Mansion also went down for its redecorating back to regular Haunted Mansion. It is scheduled to reopen on the 20th of this month. So if you're a big Haunted Mansion fan, and I know you are, a little bit of patience and planning will do you some justice if you want to get back to the regular version, which we haven't seen since the end of August. Do you think that the transformation is too long? I'm cool with it, but I know a lot of people complain that you can't actually see the actual Haunted Mansion on Halloween and that the Christmas decor lasts too long. Would love to know what you think. Grizzly River Run will be up for about one more week, going down on January 24th. We do not have an opening date for it, but it typically goes down for a few weeks every winter so they can do some of the water damage repair and get it up into shape for the spring break crowd. I would assume it'll be up and going when the spring break crowds return. Also shutting down on Monday, January 24th, It's a Small World will go down till February 3rd so they can remove the holiday overlay. I tell you, I only rode it once this year as the holiday version because, I love Christmas, but this year it just wasn't so magical. But speaking of magical, the Mark Twain will be going down at January 31st, but it'll be coming back at some point this year as a part of Fantasmic, which happens on the Rivers of America twice each evening, and I cannot wait for Fantasmic to return. The parks have felt very empty without evening shows. I know we've had fireworks, but Fantasmic and World of Color, it's just a whole other Disney animal. And also going down on January 31st, opening back up on February 10th, will be Inside Out Emotional Whirlwind. So if you see here, they seem to be shutting attractions down in sets of 2, which I'm assuming makes it easy for the refurbishment team and also allows us, the guests, not to feel like too many things are down at once. And then Nemo Submarine Voyage, Yeah, I put this project and what treehouse on the list of things. I don't know. We'll see. One day, kids. One day we'll be back to treehousing and submarining. One day. But nobody knows that day. All right, now that we've brought you up to speed on all the close downs and refurbishments, let's go over to some of the projects that we've been tracking and a couple of little interesting things that I bumped into while doing my laps around the resort. The World of Color Lagoon has water in it, but the show is not back yet. We're waiting for them to put in the projectors that do the projections on the mist screens. So it's a good time to look back at some of the other episodes of Update to track the progress of this project. Going back to our very first episode that I did in the early fall, you could see that they had the lagoon completely drained, which we filmed from every possible angle so we would always have historical footage to understand what exists beneath the water. So knowing that their service boat can chill here underneath the bridge so it's out of the sight of most guests other than people that are looking for every detail they can, it's neat to know that that's a flat spot in the lagoon deep enough for that to float. This little item that's out in the middle, I'm assuming that this is also waiting to get some sort of electronic projector or whatever installed, where we see the wire harness sitting out there just waiting for the second piece or component to be put in. And it's good to see that the seagulls from the Nemo Lagoon have found other work. So it's good to see them still out there floating and claiming that everything belongs to them. Looking over here where we're waiting for the projectors to get installed, I thought it would be a fun time to look back at how this little piece of the project has evolved. When we first started tracking, they had blown out the old columns which housed them. They put in that metal work. Then they cast it with this cardboard with that wooden template on top to pour the concrete down, so we saw just the concrete columns. And then the last step that we saw was they built the scaffolding all around the pillars, and then we saw the water come in, which created the channel debate. How did you get the scaffolding out? Scuba divers, some sort of dam, who knows? But we'll find out. We'll see as we track this together. So I thought it would be a fun moment to look back at some of the various stages of this project that we've been tracking for a while now.
And by the way, the irony of I started in DCA today so I could get DCA not at sunset and get some sunlight in here, because I always do Disneyland first, then come over to DCA. So normally poor DCA always has the sun going down. And today it's completely gloomy. It feels like an old school touch of Disney day. And it's still dark over here, so A for effort. I tried.
Ah, what a glory hound. Always looking for some sort of credit for something. This is another part of Disneyland that I've been tracking for a while, a part of my Forgotten Disneyland series, where we just look at items that have not come back online since the park's closure. The other day I was thinking a slice of pizza would be so good while I was in DCA, and you can't get a slice of pizza in the entire park unless I'm missing something, so hopefully that comes back soon. Now, another thing that I'm going to kind of start tracking is there's 2 food carts on the far end of Avengers Campus. Now that the hoopla has really died down about Avengers Campus, I've noticed these food carts normally have maybe one person in line or none person in line. This is one of the easiest places just to walk up, nobody around, and just grab a snack on the go. I kind of eat it often because normally I'm in a crunch time beating the sunlight. So want to kind of keep my eye on those carts because I don't know how much longer they're going to last because their sales seem pretty dismal. Going over to Launch Bay, they had the setup up here during Merriest Nights for DJ Buzz Lightyear, and they've had the Disneyland Marching Band up there. But I've noticed that they have installed a lot of chairs on the upper floor. Hey, who is that? An alien life form? Look, it's Alf. But anyways, I've noticed that they have a lot of tables and chairs up here. I know when you do a private tour, this is an area where you can come up, kind of reboot. They've also before sold packages so that you could watch the fireworks from there. So be interesting to see what they have up their sleeve for the top part of Launch Bay. Coming back over to Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway and Toontown, which will be shutting down in March for over a year. You can see why they're ready to shut this town down because they have big equipment in there, and if the barricade was up, they could be working right now. They could be in there just smashing and grabbing and making it happen. So you do understand why they're going to just shut this whole land off. especially because they're going to be rerouting the pathways and the trailways, sort of reimagining how to make Toontown a little bit more friendly to the younger folks. I thought it was interesting here to see all that exposed lumber in the bottom half of, I believe that might be the old gag factory. I'm a little bit spun around looking at my footage. Let's move over to the Fantasyland Theater, which looks just like it did last week, but we've been made aware that this is going to become a mixed-use entertainment space. Thank you so much last week for sharing all your different thoughts about what you wanted to see happen in this space. And I believe the next thing that's going to happen here is Celebrate Gospel, when the Disneyland Resort celebrates the soulful spirit of gospel music with the return of that mini festival. Toad still has scrims around the chimney. I don't see any activity here from last week. I'm just starting to think that maybe something up there wasn't architecturally sound or safe, so they just sort of scrimmed it off, and this will become part of a larger project elsewhere. Okay, so here is Merlin's Marvelous Miscellany. Jared, I can't do it. I'm trying to do the news straight, but I can't. Jared, I'm trying. I can't. Jared, I am trying to do it straight, but I can't do it straight. I can't resist, Jared. You know I can't resist. I can't help it trying to have fun. Friends, last week when I came over to this new location, which used to be the Christmas shop, one of my absolute favorite stores in all the Disneyland Resort, I made a joke that I didn't know what Merlin was. And it was a play off of, no matter what comes in here, it could never be as important to me as the Christmas shop. This was one of my favorite places. I came here right when the park reopened. And it was also a play on the fact that Harry Potter's just not a brand that I enjoy, which gives me a talking point to poke fun and to joke around with my friends. And I'm shooting this in this video because I wanted to let you know that I think of the camera as a friend that I go to Disneyland with. We're walking around, we're exploring this all together, we're talking about the news, we're talking about all the developments, and part of what I want to be able to do with my friends is have fun and joke around. But when people lecture me and tell me, well, I liked your video until you did that, it ruins the fun. It's Disneyland. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be lighthearted, and sometimes I joke around because I do really think of you, the camera, the person at home, wherever you're at. I do think of you as a friend that's right here with me going on these epic laps. Let's not take things so seriously. In the entire world, if somebody's making fun of who's Merlin from Sword in the Stone, is that really something to be irate about? I know right now many of you are probably typing and saying, how dare I say this? But it's my channel, and I want to have fun here, and I want you to have fun with me. And that works if we're all in the mindset of having fun. Rant over, nothing has happened here yet. We'll keep tracking it, we'll see what comes here, and I will keep an open mind, but there's no way whatever comes in here could be as good as my beloved Christmas shoop. Sorry about the little rant. I didn't want to do it. I just want to make sure everybody's having fun, and I feel like as I've gotten more people over at the channel, there's a lot of people not quite understanding where the joke lies. So here's a look at some of the wait times. 85 minutes over for standby at racers, 75 minutes for web slingers. I'm going to start kind of putting these in just to give you guys an idea of what the crowds are like for your next appearance at the park, because I'm assuming the reason why you're watching this is you're trying to get better intel on how you can manage and make the most of your next visit out to the Disneyland Resort. It was really cool to see so many characters up on the HQ building and Avengers Campus, but man, this thing is really hard to see the characters. I thought that they had come up with a very clever plan with having everything on that slope, but it is very hard to see what's going on. And then Guardians was at 45 minutes, just to give you an idea of where the park's at right now, and Rise was broken down. All right, friends, that is going to do it for this week's update, showing you everything new that I could find at the Disneyland Resort. I hope you had fun going on this lap with me, and I'm trying really hard to make these videos as concise and to give you as much information as possible, because I understand how precious Disneyland time is, and I want to help all the citizens of Disneyland maximize their time out at the park. And just to be honest, I love walking around and discovering everything new. And you know, just when I was feeling kind of bummed out about Tarzan's Treehouse, I discovered a little bit of Disney magic. Thank you so much for showing up today. I hope you consider subscribing to the channel. All it'll cost you is a good time. And thank you so much to my friends over at club1313.com for making this week's update and all updates possible. Have a great next trip to Disneyland.